We'll make a start. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to this seminar organized by the Center for Protecting Women Online. My name is Arosha Bandara. I'm one of the workstream leads at the center. And for those of you who are not familiar with the center, let me give a brief introduction to us. So we are a research center funded by Research England, one of the UK's research councils, with a remit of looking at how we can improve online safety for women and girls. And we bring together a very diverse collection of research disciplines, from law and policy to policing, human behavior, responsible AI, and responsible design of future technologies. Lead that latter work stream, looking at the future of responsible technologies together with colleagues. But I can see here in the webinar, we have colleagues representing many of the other work streams as well. And today, I'm very pleased to be chairing this webinar, welcoming back indeed one of our international visiting fellows, Rida Tahir, who works in Pakistan, where she's an advocate of the High Courts of Pakistan and works quite closely with the police in Pakistan to address online violence, with a focus on using rehabilitative justice mechanisms to increase access to justice for victims and survivors. And today, Rida is going to be delivering a talk on that work, looking at how rehabilitative justice mechanisms can help address online violence against women and girls. So welcome, Rida. It's very good to have you here. Before you get started, I'll just remind everyone, we are recording this session, and if you have any questions, we will take them at the end, and we kindly request that you put those questions in the Q&A tool in the webinar. You'll see that along the top ribbon, and please put your questions there, and I'll pick them up at the end. So with that, Rida, over to you.
Thank you so much. And it's very nice to see all of the colleagues from the Center for Protecting Women online again. I'm just going to share my PowerPoint presentation. Can you see my PowerPoint presentation?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to be talking about utilizing rehabilitative justice mechanisms for addressing online violence against women and girls. And in this session, I will explore how survivor-centered, culturally sensitive justice mechanisms address the underreporting of online violence against women and girls, and what lessons can be drawn for improving responses both in the UK and beyond. Before I start, I want to give some information with regards to the data and a little bit about the problem context. So in Pakistan in 2024, which is the latest data we have right now, the data for 2025 is still being collected. About 2,741 cases of cyber harassment were reported to the Digital Rights Foundation. It is an NGO that works on addressing online violence in Pakistan. It runs 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. in Pakistan to take complaints from women. And you can see that for a whole year, for whole 365 days, the number we see before ourselves is very little. This is because there is a lot of underreporting in cases of technology-facilitated gender-based violence offenses. Very little offenses are actually reported to the criminal justice system. This is because of the shame, because of the honor that is attached to generally the sexual and gender-based violence offenses against women and girls in Pakistan, which also includes online violence against women and girls. So many cases are not reported to save the family's name and honor. And it is key to why then, because of this underreporting, do rehabilitative justice mechanisms work? So there are some norms and beliefs which are very powerful perpetrators of violence against women and girls in Pakistan. These include the notion that men are superior to women because they are the breadwinners of the family, they are the providers, so everything should be done in accordance with how they want the whole family to run, which includes the women in the family. And it is appropriate for men to discipline women, to tell women whether they should report their offenses or not. And a lot of the times, the sexual behavior is linked to male honor. So if someone has a sister, a male has a female sister, so they think that all the things that a female is doing that is attached to their male honor, that includes acting, in different clothing online, clothing that may not seem intimate to Western culture, such as wearing sleeveless. And I will also be sharing some powerful cases which made a turn to change this and to increase reporting, that the changes that the government made to change this. So, in patriarchal societies like Pakistan, women cannot actually report directly to the provincial policing, especially if there are male police officers involved. So they find it very difficult to report their cases to the male police officers, to the law enforcement, and take their cases to the law enforcement. They want to solve their cases more confidentially so that men in the family cannot find out, or other people in the family cannot find out that they are going through this problem or they have online violence happening against them. So, this is a case of a woman called Kandil Baloch who was killed by her own brother in a case of honor killing some time ago in Pakistan. And she was sleeping in her own home, and she was uploading some pictures of herself, like she was wearing sleeveless clothing or more fashionable clothes. She was wearing perhaps a mini skirt and putting her pictures online, and that is why her brother killed her. And he said that you wearing these sleeveless clothes, you wearing these mini skirts, it's causing a shame to me, it's causing a shame to my family, to the society, to the house we live in. And so when she was sleeping, her brother killed her, and the court actually acquitted the brother. So she never got justice from the courts. So this is just an example of one case on why would a woman not want to bring her case, no matter where she's living, if she's bringing that culture with her to a different country. She cannot tell her own parents, she cannot tell her own brothers and sisters that if someone is causing her any online offense, if someone is blackmailing her, if someone is blackmailing to release her photos or something like that. So she cannot access help from her own parents. So that is why, because she wants to resolve her case confidentially, privately, she needs a very private justice mechanism. And then this is a case which is more than 9 years old. And this case I want to discuss just because I want to give an example that how in Western societies, what we call non-disclosure image does not have to be, is defined differently in different cultures. So over here, women who were just singing and clapping their hands were murdered because they were engaging in celebrating music, for example. So that is something that they were doing online. And at that point in time, in 2016, these were shared via Bluetooth throughout the whole village. And that resulted in the death of these five girls just for having fun, just for clapping their hands, sitting with two male people from that village. So, what are the other reasons for non reporting of sexual and gender based violence? And this is crucial to discuss because then, when I discuss what changes have been made which provide some rehabilitative justice, this is important over there. So, a report by the National Commission on the Status of Women said that 24% women did not report domestic violence. They thought the violence was not serious, they were embarrassed to report it. And once again, 12% did not want to bring a bad name to the family, 9% feared further violence, and 8% didn't report because they were afraid that if they are currently in a marriage and if their husband finds out, then he will end the marriage. Then often women do not report their cases to the law enforcement because of the social stigma attached to the offenses of sexual and gender based violence. And research has also outlined that male police officers provide insensitive treatment to women. They re victimize them, they victim blame them rather than taking the case seriously due to social cultural discriminatory attitudes. the female victims of sexual and gender based violence, which includes online violence, they are stigmatized, they are blamed rather than supported. So, in a way, women are unreasonably exposed to inequality and prejudice while pursuing assistance from the police force. And if I just go a little bit over here, the situation you could say in a way is similar. So if you look at the online violence against women, a four nation study 2024 by Professor Olga, which is from the Center for Protecting Women Online and Open University. And an anonymous participant shared that I wish I had the option to have a woman in the room there and not be locked in a room with my dad and a male police officer. So this is something that an anonymous participant shared in the UK as well. And then a study which was conducted across India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh, and it is sourced over here, it revealed that women coped through informal channels rather than through technological protections or law enforcement in response to online violence, including online cyber stalking, impersonation, and online content leakages. So this study also found out that what are the remedies that they are looking for, that women are looking for. So this study found out that participants sought punitive actions for sure, like content removal from the perpetrator's devices, legal summons, arrest, corporal punishment, and in some cases a court trial. But on top of these consequences, the participants were also concerned about safeguarding and upholding their family's reputation. So they expressed an interest in restorative remedies like a written guarantee of NCIDA cessation, a private legal apology, a signed statement carrying legal consequences, or a public apology with an admission of fabricating content. Content removal from public platforms and private devices was also a consistent desire across all victims, 70 out of 70. And victims also sought out of court settlements and monetary compensation, which is also my experience of working with women victims of online violence in Pakistan, that they generally want the problem to go away. They want the content to be removed without anyone knowing, the person who is causing them online violence to apologize to them, to face some consequences without their family finding out. I remember working on a case where there was a woman victim and she said that she's about to get married and she does not want her husband to find out that she was in a previous relationship. So she just wanted the problem to basically go away and for the person who was now blackmailing her to be facing some legal consequences. The legal framework in Pakistan then actually allows there to be special provision for the protection of women and children. Pakistan's constitution says that everybody is equal before the law, but and that there should be no discrimination on the basis of sex and gender, but the state can make special provisions for the protection of women and children. And then, in line with Article 25 of the Constitution, the state established special protective mechanisms for female victims of gender based violence through various provincial and federal laws. Most of these protections have been established by the provincial police in Pakistan, who have the primary domestic security responsibility across the country. So these are then some of the rehabilitative justice mechanisms, and I will go through them, and I will also then bring back the problem context once back into it. So there are women and children police stations where there is no male families, no male staff. There are women and children protection cells, which are similar to police stations with a few differences. There are female help desks that have been established in all of the police stations across Pakistan. There is the Citizens Police Liaison Committee. I will be discussing that. I will also be discussing the Sindh Human Rights Commission, which is a statutory body established under the Paris Principles, and the one stop protection centers that have been established by the police in Pakistan. So this is just a picture of female police officers in Khairpur, a police station, and at the back you will see that there is a police station that also has a shelter home within the police station for those women who would like to stay there for up to 24 to 72 hours. They have a peaceful place to stay until they figure out what do they really want from the justice system, until they have that sort of like safety and security to know what kind of remedy and action the women want to take. So now I will be discussing one of these mechanisms where women can avail rehabilitative justice as well, or they can ask for alternative dispute resolution mechanisms such as a mediation, but it involves their consent. It cannot be done without their consent, and if there is harm that they may get from a perpetrator, then they would know that they are safe because there is the law enforcement who is directly providing these services at the police station. So the women and children police stations, they were first established in Pakistan in 1994. So that was a long time ago. This was the first one in Pakistan, which can be traced to the police order of 2002. And the police order outlines the attitudes and responsibilities of police towards the public. One of these includes is that it is the duty of every police officer to aid individuals who are in danger of physical harm, and particularly women and children. So currently there are 3,700 female police officers serving in 18 police stations across Pakistan, and eight of them have been established in the Sindh province, in different cities, so that women can have access to justice, which are one of the more village cities in the districts in Sindh. So there is equitable access to justice, but more of them have been have are continuing to be established. So the Sindh government is working on establishing them across the Sindh province. So there is only female staff in these women and children police stations, and if there is any male staff, it sits outside the police station to guard the police station. So the women and girls who come from villages who have sometimes in villages in Pakistan, women have never spoken to any male members outside of their own family. So they can engage with female police officers. They don't have to engage with male police officers, and they provide them information with regards to what are their legal options, whether they can get legal aid services, where the shelter homes are, which are known as Darul Aman in Pakistan, and which NGOs are providing free legal aid service and advice. Then they also assist victims and survivors in lodging their complaints. So if they are not interested in alternative dispute resolution, if the case is particularly of a very massive level, it's heinous in nature, so they can also help in putting a registration of the first information report, which kickstarts the police and the court process in Pakistan's criminal justice system. So the women police station will both provide access to different options, a shelter home, as well as different NGOs, and then they will also help them in going and reporting the crime, and then kickstarting the criminal justice process, the investigation process by the police, and taking the case to the court for justice, and also free legal aid services, so that you have a lawyer to represent without paying any economic cost. These women police stations are different from the women and children protection cells. So these are actually facilitation centers. They don't register FIR, but there are women sitting there in female uniform. And over here, more alternative dispute resolution services are provided. They provide mediation between victim, survivor, and the abuser, but only with the consent of the victim or survivor, not without their consent. And they also provide referral services. So if you no longer want to engage in ADR, you can have those same referral services. You can be referred to a police station. So most of the times, my experience of a lot of these examples have been family disputes with regards to sometimes maintenance, bridal gifts, and also online violence that has not escalated to a very massive A lot of the times it depends what sort of service a female wants. For example, a female victim wants, for example, if it is at a blackmailing stage and the content has not yet been leaked, so they want an apology, they want to stop that content from being leaked before it leaks. But after it has been shared online, then a lot of the times they do want to take the case to the court, or they still want to see how much massive effect it has on them, and how much they can engage in mediation services and that removal of the content. So the police then they coordinate with other authorities to remove that content. There is also a software, a mobile application that has been developed, which is called the Women and Children Protection Software, so that any woman who does not want to visit or cannot visit physically the protection center, they can make an online complaint and then police can go and see how to help them. So the mobile app allows easy report of incidents, access to information, and to receive updates with regard to their cases, and any web-based online complaint system that is also available. Then there are the female help desk. So this is separate from, there are separate women police stations, there are separate women and children protection centers, but then there are also police stations where all types of crimes can be reported and people from all gender can go. And even within those police stations, there are separate female help desks. So if you don't want to engage as a woman or as a child who is reporting their case to a male police staff member, because of the culture over here, which I was already speaking about. So the female help desk or the gender facilitation desk, they help in providing access to justice, telling the women their options, what they have. So they help access services from the state to the women and children. So the women police officers here are friendly, they provide assistance and they tell them what their options are. Then there is a new mechanism that is now being made available by the government. This is a pilot project that has only been started in the city of Hyderabad in Sindh. But this is a center that provides all integrated legal, medical, and psychological service, social assistance under one roof. So you may not want to go to a hospital or a clinical facility for psychological service. There will be a psychologist sitting there in the police station and a lawyer in the police station sitting there to tell a woman what her options are and legally where she stands. They will be providing them that legal advice, psychological assistance, and they are also placed near to hospitals. So if a victim needs urgent assistance to a hospital, then she can also be transferred in the police vehicles from the protection center to the hospital so that she can access that service. So the government is planning to establish more OSPCs, but first the government would study the data from this pilot project to see what are the benefits of establishing it across the province in Sindh. So this is a new mechanism. Over here also a woman can come and say that she wants to, after looking at her legal option, maybe engage, not take her case to the court and engage in a mediation. So she can be referred to the one stop from the one stop protection center to the one stop to the women and children protection centers and police stations. Then, other than the police, there are also the Citizens Police Liaison Committee, and they are a non-political statutory organization. They have been established through a law. It was launched in 1990s by a group of Karachi-based businessmen. They had the aim of improving the police performance and restoring public order in Pakistan's major business hubs. So that is how it started, but then its function started to expand. This is a form of community policing in Pakistan. So they have also established a helpline which deals with more than 6,000 complaints in a day, and they store data, they share the data with the police, and they play a role in resolving disputes through mediation and arbitration processes. Often the parties to a dispute, they do not want to involve police at all, or they do not want to engage in a court process. They can come to this center, They can sign a consent form, and then a team members who are certified in alternative dispute resolution, they can handle the matters effectively. And if the victim, survivor, a complainant, if they want to involve the police in the matter, then that can be involved as well. I have experience of working with the CPLC as well, and they work with the police sometimes to help the parties come to a solution, to a mediation, a written apology letter, perhaps, so that a lot of people, a lot of family members don't have to know, and they start behaving properly, because they know that if they don't be the the offender knows that if they don't behave properly, then there is the police and more action can be taken against them. So sometimes that threat of starting a criminal case against them, if they don't immediately stop all their blackmailing or online violence, then they sometimes that helps them in resolve the case more effectively, that they know that the police is there to register a case if they don't apologize or if they don't stop sharing the content. So you can stop it from turning into a very a big problem if you stop it, the sharing and the non-consensual photos from being shared at the very first step, so that avoids it in escalating the matter in a way. Then there is another mechanism for rehabilitative justice, which is the Sindh Human Rights Commission. This law was amended recently. It has the powers and functions to inquire or to suo moto, take suo moto action or a petition if there is it is been presented by a victim or on behalf of a person wherever there is a violation of human rights, wherever there is a negligence in the prevention of such violation. So, and also recommend to the government that such and such step should be taken against this person. Recently, this law was amended to include alternative dispute resolution services within the scope of the commission as well, so that they can provide ADR services, rehabilitative justice mechanisms, where it's with the consent of the victim. It doesn't provide them any harm. So, with that consent, they can engage in alternative dispute resolution services as well. So these are some of the sources that I have utilized in sharing the data and some of the literature review that I have shared, which brings me to the end of my presentation. And I'm very thankful to everyone for listening, and I look forward if there are any questions.
Thanks very much, Rita. That was a really fascinating and insightful view into everything that's going on in Pakistan in this context. Really interesting to hear about that. So yes, for those online, we now have time to take some questions, which you can post in the Q&A area, and I will read them out so that Rita can respond to them. While colleagues are thinking of those questions, I will take chair's prerogative and ask one or two of my own, if that's okay, Rita. Um, it was quite really interesting to hear about all these different mechanisms that, I guess it's the provincial government in Sindh who have chosen to enact a lot of these mechanisms that you were talking about. And one of my questions was whether there was any sense or understanding of the level of autonomy women have in engaging with these services? Or is there some evidence that in some cases there are pressures on women to go down a particular route of support versus another?
So a lot of the times we see that there is more restriction if female victims and survivors they engage with male police officers. So the whole point of women then being there to help you, to assist with your case, to guide you, gives women a bit more autonomy in speaking to them, in telling their family members that we are not speaking to male police officers or we are not engaging with anyone from an opposite gender, but we are actually talking to women police officers, and we can resolve this case, because a lot of this has to do with the social stigma that comes to the family, and policing is something in Pakistan that has had always a bad reputation. when it comes to the honor of women in talking to them, and especially if you're talking to somebody from the opposite gender. So there's still a lot of that present today in Pakistani society, but with more women joining the profession, with more women victims and survivors getting a chance to speak to women who are more understanding, who better know the situation of women and girls, we see that there is resistance, but slowly and gradually we are seeing change in the society that we weren't seeing before the presence of female police officers. So now you can tell them, and sometimes when women do not have autonomy, then especially because fewer and fewer women have access to a mobile device of their own. So in that regard, we see that sometimes women victims, they call the women police staff and they tell them that you can only call me back during these specific hours, because I only have access to mobile phone during these hours. And sometimes to make sure that the male members of the society don't find out, they tell them that just pretend that you are my friend, you are my neighbor, you are this particular girl. So that helps them in seeking help. I know that it might sound very confusing in a different society or in the UK, that women cannot even have access to justice through those mechanisms. But what is it that is making justice more accessible while you keep it confidential, when you can save the family's honor, and increasing that access to justice at the end of the day is more crucial, more important.
Thanks very much, Rida. So now we have some other questions from attendees here. So I'm going to read the first one of those out, and and apologies if I mispronounce your name. Arabi Indoni has asked, are the survivors given the chance to state what they want, or the options are limited based on what is available?
So it completely depends on the situation. And over here, the survivor um, is given the full autonomy to see what their options are. It is only done with their consent. So if initially they say that their options are limited, but through the alternative dispute resolution process, if they feel like they want to escalate and go to a different option, if they want to invoke the jurisdiction of the courts, if they want to take the case towards the court, if they want imprisonment, because you cannot give imprisonment to a offender if you are engaging in alternative dispute resolution. Over there, the options are limited. There can be an apology, there can be a restraint, there can even be a contract that if you don't stop doing what you're doing, which is harming me, then I will go to the court. So there can also be a contract that can be signed from both parties. But then, if a victim feels like that this is not enough and she wants imprisonment, she wants other remedies from the justice system, then she can also go and lodge an FIR, then an investigation, a proper investigation, and the police process can take place and the trial can then start.
Thank you. Our next question is from Angel Pawan Perez, a member of the center. And Angel asks, are there mechanisms for victims to report harms that may not be illegal in Pakistan, at least right now? For example, he's not sure if deepfakes are illegal or not, but he means those kinds of emerging online harms. Are those reportable through these mechanisms?
So currently there are, if you make a comparison to the UK's Online Safety Act and from Pakistan's law, which is PECA, translated to Prevention of Electronic Crimes Act, a lot of the offences which are defined in PECA are insulting the modesty of a woman. So in that way, you can also interpret it to include deep fakes, because you are making a deep fake, but at the end of the day, it is insulting a woman's modesty, for example. So that is criminalized. But yes, a lot of the times, if you look at the sort of complaints that are made, there is some section from the Pakistan Penal Code that will describe it. That can be interpreted. And for example, if currently there is any confusion or such a case has not been reported before, if you take it, if a report is lodged with the police and they apply a section then the courts can decide whether it applies or whether it doesn't apply, when it goes, whether the ingredients of that offense have been sufficiently met. So you can definitely mediate or engage in ADR where there is a harm, but it isn't clearly defined in the law. But you can also take it forward to the courts where there might be a confusion whether this specific online harm is there or not. But I consider that the current section, which speaks about insulting the modesty of a woman, can include a lot of the online violence that happens in the society, because a lot of the times it is done to insult her modesty. So yes, I hope that answers the question.
Thank you, Rida. Um, so I have another question from an online participant, which I will read out. So there's actually two parts to this question. So the first is which forms of retributive and restorative justice mechanisms are in place in the sentencing process? And is there a correlation between online violence and femicide in Pakistan?
So there are really massive forms of restorative justice mechanisms, and like I said, it is always up to the offender with their consent, and the victim and survivor with their consent, to say that this is what I want out of this mediations. And a lot of the times, sometimes there is even this acknowledgement from the other side that this is fake material, that this material is fake, or you are lying about us being in a relationship before, or these are these pictures that are made of me, they are AI generated, and I want you to accept that this is the case, and I want you to stop doing this, and I want you to apologize to me publicly. So we see, like, depending on the situation, a lot of the times, because of saving the honor, you don't want anybody to know, you want to access help without letting anybody know. Usually it is the mothers who are coming with their daughters to help them, and they don't want their father to find out at all that this is a crime that is even happening. But then sometimes we see that some girls or victims and survivors, they say that I want you to apologize to me publicly and say that this material that you're sharing of me, it's fake. So what remedies you want, you can always tell them that this is the remedy that I want. This is what is necessary. So that can help provide some guidance. And in the second part, yes, so a lot of the times, if you see online violence happening against a woman, like Kandil's case, that her own brother murdered her in the name of honor in their own home. And it's so confusing for anybody, for any human being, to understand that the parents of that, um, because the parents said that we lost our daughter, now we don't want to lose our son, and they said that, just we don't want any punishment for our son, and we want to forgive our son because we already lost a daughter, and now we don't want to lose our son, which is really confusing, difficult for anyone to understand that how could the parents say this. But it's just like that when it comes to sentencing and online violence in Pakistan.
Thanks very much, Rita. Um, and sorry, I should have mentioned. So that question was from Heather Degrota. Apologies again if I mispronounced your surname, Heather, but hopefully that was a helpful answer to your question. Um, so we now have a question, not, I don't think, focused on the context of Pakistan, but do feel free to answer it in that context. So the question is about the prevalence of online abuse and harm to women on different social media apps, and whether we know where that kind of harm is most prevalent, and whether there's any kind of comparative studies to identify the distribution of online harms on different platforms. Is there any such information that you're aware of, Rita?
No, not at the moment. I haven't looked into this.
Yeah, I think from my understanding, this is actually quite hard to assess because of the kind of quite variable levels of transparency about the reporting that's done on different online platforms. But I'm aware that thanks to the work that was shared by one of our other international visiting research fellows, that there is in the EU context, so this is in the European Union countries, the Digital Safety Act, I think, of the EU requires this reporting transparency. So there's a transparency database that provides some of this information. And I'll put a link to that in response to that question in the Q&A here for folks to have a look at. Oh, yes, the questioner has clarified that it was about the Pakistan context, but I'm guessing there isn't such information in Pakistan at the moment. Yeah, okay. Do we have any other questions? Not at the moment. But given we have a little more time and to give others an opportunity to ask any further questions that we have, I'm going to ask one more from my side, which was about understanding where Rida, where are the bottlenecks and issues in the current system? Because in what you presented at one level, it seems quite rich and varied, and actually there are many ways in which women and girls can get support and access to both retributive and restorative justice mechanisms in this context. But I'm guessing, like from what you said, some of the challenges are about access due to geographical restrictions, that these centers and facilities are restricted to certain parts of the province. But I was also wondering about just the level of resourcing in these centers and the skills of the staff in these centers. Is there something you could tell us about where the issues and challenges in those respects are?
So there are numerous levels of gender sensitization trainings that many NGOs do with the policing, and there are policing academies because, of course, we see sometimes that women are, more sensitized towards the problems of other women. But in order to further sensitize women, because a lot of the times when you come across a lot of cases or a lot of similar cases, then it's somewhere you need those consistent gender sensitization trainings to ensure that you do not engage in victim blaming, or you do not engage in a manner which re-victimizes the victims and survivors. And of course, ADR and engaging in that, in being a mediator, also requires specific skill sets. So it's very crucial to ensure that any victim and survivor, they receive the highest level of services, highest level of information and protection, especially because it is such a difficult harm. Online violence, it has so many psychological and emotional consequences on you and your life. It can result in a lot of anxiety attacks, panic attacks. So for that matter, there are a lot of like women training. Police has even at many districts across many training academies where a lot of the NGOs and police itself also engages in gender sensitization trainings and informing these women about the laws. So if there are any particular laws, there are recent amendments in the law. For example, in Pakistan, there is the Anti-Rape Investigation and Trial Act that was recently enacted in 2021, and it completely changed the legal system, the legal response with regards to the offense of rape and sexual violence. So, periodic, continuous gender sensitizations are provided over there, and even it is analyzed that to what extent have the police officers learned from these trainings, what is the different in their response and training before and after through surveys and Q&A answers. So there are a lot of new systems that were established. For example, increasing access to justice, even in the gender-based violence courts in Pakistan, which is a place where I did not put a lot of emphasis. And now the new law that introduced that there has to be video link evidence if a victim or survivor cannot access the courts. There has to be a curtain, for example. placed, or a separate room given to the victim or survivor so that they can provide their evidence or testimony. So for sure, it is very crucial that highest level of justice are given, and there is always room for improvement, and nothing is ever perfect, but those efforts are being made to ensure. And I'm pretty sure there's always more improvement, more gender sensitization that can be provided. But at the current level, we see a positive change being brought by more attention by the government towards these issues and more general awareness in the society.
Thank you very much, Rita. Yeah, that's encouraging to hear. So we have another question from Pooja Yadav, um, who asks, how can sorry, I'm going to read this. How can we analyze through feminist critiques regarding the recent case in Iran where women challenging chastity and the hijab? What type of regressive control does government want to impose on women there in the name of modesty and culture of Iran? I'm not sure I communicated that very well. Pooja, if we didn't ask the question properly, could you raise your hand and we'll invite you to ask it yourself? Were you able to pass the question, Rita? I think it's just to understand the kind of connection um, between using feminist critiques of uh, around the situation in Iran and women's chastity and the hijab. Um,
In Pakistan, the situation is very different because in Pakistan, there the government has never imposed, for example, women for mandatory hijab. So women do have, there's never any imposition by the government on women's clothing, but it is actually the society that has created. So the government in Pakistan or the law in Pakistan, it doesn't impose women to behave or to act in a certain way, but it is the society itself that says that okay, if you wear a sleeveless dress, then you are bringing dishonor upon me, or if you are wearing, for example, a mini skirt, then you are imposing honor and shame in the society. So culturally, there is an attire that women wear. It's called the shalwar kameez, but it's never like being imposed by the government, or the law never says that you're supposed to wear a mandatory hijab or you're supposed to mandatorily cover yourself up. In Pakistan, it's just the culture and the society that says that this is the attire that should be worn, but there's no legal sanctions that can be put on a woman. In fact, there are certain laws in the penal code that says that if you engage in a way that has consequences for women and their modesty, then there can be a case against the men. But for the woman, a woman cannot be, for example, penalized or punished for wearing certain clothing or uncovering herself or something like that. So the situation in Pakistan is very different.
Thank you, Rita, for that context in Pakistan. We will move on to another question that's come up from Mike Thornton, in which he notes that you've described some impressive approaches around addressing these challenges from which many other countries might learn. And he asks, are you aware of other countries where such initiatives, like the ones you've described, are in place?
Yes, so if you look at South Asia particularly, you will see that in India as well, there are specific women police stations because we share similar culture. And when it comes to one stop protection center, when it comes to women feeling more comfortable in the company of other women, then even India has special women police stations where women in India can have that access to justice. And even Bangladesh has female help desks where there are females available at police stations to help women access to justice. There are women police stations even in countries, for example, like Brazil, who give women the chance to report their cases in women police stations. So yes, other countries also have like these police stations and one-stop protection centers and female help desk. And even when you look out the study which I shared earlier, the Four Nations study by Professor Olga, you will see that there is that uh, thing that where anonymous participants are sharing that we would have been more comfortable if, you know, there was a woman in the room as opposed to my father and just a male police officer. So you can also see that testimony and the recommendation to the UK government to do more to increase the confidence of the public, especially after the Sarah Evelyn murder. You will see that the reports have said that the police culture, even in the UK, is misogynist, and more needs to be done to change that. So, yes.
Thank you very much. The second part to Mike's question, I think, is addressed at all of us around how can these international ideas be discussed with the UK authorities. And I think reflecting on that myself, I would suggest that yes, so the Center for Protecting Women Online is one of many organizations in the UK context working in this sphere to address violence against women and girls, not just online, but more broadly as well. And I think by hosting seminars like Rida's today, we are trying to shine light and bring forward these wider ideas. And we're very pleased to have hosted Rida as an international visiting fellow with us because we recognize that there's much that can be learned by looking globally and not just within the UK or trying to develop these ways of working ourselves. So I think now the opportunity is with the strategy that the UK government has recently published about addressing violence against women and girls, work we're doing in the center, but all of us who are in working in this space and listen to Rida's talk and learn from what's happening elsewhere to use this information to try and influence and lobby relevant influential people in policy and practice to learn and adopt these ideas. I think there is a lot we can do, a lot yet to be done in this. So yeah, hopeful that the center can push a little bit, even if it's only a little bit, to learn and share these ideas and make them be part of the UK context as well. Um, okay, I don't see any other questions coming up. No hands up either. So I'm noting that we're almost at the end of time. I think I'm going to draw us to a close there and just invite everyone here to virtually please give our thanks to Rida Tahir for coming along to give a talk to us today. It was really informative and insightful, and as we've noted from that very last question, a lot for us to all learn and apply in our own context. So thank you very much, Rida, and we look forward to seeing you and working with you in the center in the future as well. Thank you very much.